And we're live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and welcome everybody. And just to acknowledge that as we call this meeting to order, we do have Councillor Timms joining us remotely, and our clerk, Nicole Rubelet, joining us remotely. And did I hear our CFO is joining us? Remotely as well. Okay. Other than that, everybody is here in chambers, and I'm going to look to item 1.1, the land acknowledgement, and I'll turn it over to Councillor DeLeo. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miigwech, and we'll now move on to item number 2 on the agenda. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have none before me at this time. If at some point you feel you have a pecuniary interest, please let us know at that time. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda, and the recommended motion is that the contents of the agenda for October 27, 2025 be approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? That motion carries. I'm not seeing Councillor Timms online. Okay, all right. Thank you. And now moving on to item number 4, staff reports. 4.1 is Skydive Wasaga lease agreement, Klondike Sports Park. And I'm going to turn it over to our CAO, Andrew McNeil. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Last week, immediately following the council meeting, it was brought to my attention that while discussing the staff report regarding Skydive Wasaga, I had confused an important detail about the current lease. I want to apologize to both council, Mr. Farkas, and Skydive for the error, and I want to take this opportunity to clarify the matter for both council and the public. I requested today's meeting in consultation with the mayor, not because the mistake was material, but because it's important to me that both council and our community have confidence that when I or any member of our administration make a mistake, we own it, we bring it forward, and we correct it. Additionally, I want to ensure that council has the most accurate information possible to inform your decision making. I also recognize that when inaccurate information is shared, even unintentionally, it can quickly circulate online and contribute to misunderstanding. By addressing this openly and transparently, I want to ensure that the facts are clear. For me and for the dedicated staff who come to work each day to make Wasaga Beach a better place to live, what matters most is the trust our residents place in us. Maintaining and protecting that trust is fundamental to everything we do. It's built on honesty, accountability, and transparency, and those are the values that guide our work every day. So allow me to correct the record. Last week, I misspoke and advised council that Skydive Wasaga's lease had an indemnification clause removed. In fact, the lease does include both insurance and indemnification clauses. However, this does not change the fact that liability remains a top concern. I remain, as I did last Thursday, of the opinion that the insurance and indemnification clauses contained within the 2021 lease agreement are inadequate to properly protect the municipality. As an officer of the corporation, I have a fiduciary duty to ensure that the corporation is properly protected. In the matter of the lease agreement with Skydive Wasaga Inc., I do not believe that the corporation is properly protected. I have consulted with the town's insurer, and they have provided me with a detailed list of concerns. It is rather lengthy. However, Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read those concerns?
How lengthy is it, Andrew? Is it like 20 pages?
It's about 3.5.
Okay, I think it's important that council understand this, and so do the public, so please go ahead.
Okay, bear with me, members of council. So these comments were provided to me by the by the town's insurer. The agreement and insurance provisions need improvement. The indemnity needs considerable improvement, as well as improved types of insurance coverage and consideration to increasing the limits of coverage. These improvements are outlined below in his note. Current coverage requirement, as per the lease, is $5 million liability. This is a common and reasonable starting point for high-risk recreational activities like skydiving on private property. And he's provided a comparison of how this relates to other insurance. So typical coverage levels, most skydiving companies carry $1 million to $5 million in general liability coverage. In his opinion, this is inadequate limits, but for a small business that can declare bankruptcy, it's likely an acceptable risk to them. Some municipalities or airports require $5 million or more, particularly for operations involving public land or high exposure. Unfortunately, these limits need to be broken down. For death of a participant, $5 million should be ample coverage, depending on the person and the number of dependents, or those whom they are responsible for and their position of employment, and what their future income would have brought forward into the household. This is a very short outline of damages for a death, but shows that $5 million in most cases should be enough coverage. If an individual is severely injured and becomes a quadriplegic or paraplegic, this limit would not be enough insurance to settle a loss. Courts would simply not rely on a waiver and not provide some level of funds to a critically injured individual. There are no other resources for these folks to tap into to pay for their living expenses, medical expenses, and further care costs, and as such, they will look for the involved parties to participate in providing such services and funds to the injured individual. The Negligence Act, also known as joint and several liability, will bring the town into the claim, and all the party would need to do is establish 1% on the town, and whatever the shortfall in coverage is over the $5 million coverage provided by Skydive would be borne by the town and the town's insurers. This is a real and live risk to the municipality, and these events, accident deaths, do take place and are a concern to take into consideration. That sentence was bolded and underlined. Once the funds have been exhausted by Skydive, it would be anticipated that the individual would have the right to try and recover expenses paid on their behalf, but it is quite likely that Skydive would simply declare bankruptcy, shut their doors, and possibly open as another company. The town, unfortunately, does not have that option, and whatever settlement is, it would need to honor such decision. The insurance company is seeing settlements and costs for quadriplegic or paraplegic in the range of $15 to $24 million each these days, and landing normally on the higher range in today's economy. As a result, to try and limit the town's exposure, at a minimum, the insurance should be $10 million. USPA member coverage. USPA provides up to $1 million aggregate and $50,000 per occurrence for third-party liability, which is not sufficient for municipal risk transfer. The town needs to ensure that the instructors, operators, and qualified and registered with whatever organizations in Canada that govern skydiving and the instruction of skydiving. Evidence should be produced for every person employed, volunteering, and participating in such activities. It is not uncommon for jumpers not working for the skydive company to assist with packing parachutes or assisting around the club to be compensated with free flights for jumps. As such, the insurance policy must include coverage for volunteers, and our insurer would recommend having Skydive provide a policy on how they train, monitor, govern, and manage volunteers, or put restriction on who may pack chutes or other high-risk activities. This would be exceptionally hard to monitor, but to ensure ensuring adequate volunteer coverage and ensuring there are no exclusions on the policy for such activities. The insurer is recommending the following. Commercial umbrella policy to extend liability limits beyond $5 to $10 million. Aircraft liability insurance to cover damage or injury caused by aircraft operations. The agreement, our current lease agreement, does not speak to any aircraft which could malfunction and crash with its occupants in the plane, causing damage to those in the plane and the resulting crashing location, which may involve property and people. He recommends the agreement speaks to insurance for the operations of planes and adequate limits for same. Workers' compensation is required if the company has employees operating on municipal land, which Skydive does. Normally, these types of operations are not structured as a commercial operation and as such may not fully report or comply with WSIB rules. He recommends reviewing their operations to see if WSIB rules apply, and if so, ask for evidence of compliance. Errors and omissions insurance covers professional negligence, example, instructor error. This coverage has not been requested in the agreement and something that needs bolded and underlined to be included, as this type of operation relies heavily on instruction and compliance to those instructions. A CGL policy does not cover liability from professional instructions, and as such, if the claim was formulated in a way that alleged instructions provided to the injured dead person was inadequate or improper, there would be no coverage, even for the defense of such allegations. Increase the limit of insurance. The insurer recommends increasing the limit of coverage to align with municipal risk and attempt to limit the exposure of significant claims affecting the town. Increased risk management requirements. Our insurer recommends that Skydive share a copy of their waiver and hold harmless agreement for our review. They would also recommend that the town be included on this indemnity waiver informed consent to try and limit their liability. For catastrophic injuries, normally waivers are not upheld easily in a court of law. In addition, we should perform a review of the training location, sign-up location, and other locations where participants attend the skydiving club. There is a lot of case law that speaks to having participants being exposed to signs outlining risk, what they could experience and be exposed to, as well as how participants are presented with the agreement. Waiver, indemnity, and informed consent. Most often, this is done on the day of training and jump, providing little to no time to review and obtain legal advice. If this business is to continue, the insurer would want to ensure participants have ample time to review and seek legal advice. There would need to be a lot more built into the agreement outlining these types of things, along with signage at the business, et cetera, to try and minimize the risk to the town. There's been a lot of case law as it pertains to high-risk sports and the corresponding waivers, informed consents, and the insurer would recommend engaging the participation of an experienced litigation lawyer to assist with these types of directives. Restrictions on minors participating. Our insurer recommends restricting the age for those able to participate. He indicates we cannot waive the rights of a minor, and as a result, they would have a right to sue once they reach the age of 18. If their injuries are significant, this would open the door to any claim by a minor once they reach the age of 18. Indemnification. Our insurer highly recommends improving the indemnity and inserting a limitation of liability and leverage, the services of a good litigation lawyer to review and provide recommendations to improve a fulsome indemnity and to review the waiver used by participants. Monitoring compliance. Our insurer recommends that the town require annual proof of insurance and incident reporting and consider periodic audits or site inspections, ensuring in the agreement that such inspections in no way imposes any liability onto the town. This is key, and this is where a good lawyer can assist. Further, they should be required to participate and report as requested by CSPA to include their experiences into retained statistics. Something to also review in performing a site inspection is the consumption of alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs. Waivers, informed consent, indemnity. Insurer recommends reviewing this with legal counsel, and if inadequate, have it amended further to include the town's interest and charge such review and changes to Skydive. This would ensure that there is at least an appropriate waiver in place for all participants. This will also assist the skydiving club, so there really shouldn't be much of a pushback. They may be utilizing a standard waiver provided by their association that has already been reviewed by a lawyer, and if that's the case, a review by the town would still be required as case law changes all the time, and such a waiver may be out of date. There would need to be significant consideration and work done on this element of risk. The town needs to understand the risk being accepted by this activity. Our insurer has included a number of reports outlining the incident reported by the Canadian Sport Parachuting Association. I would add, I have reviewed some of those, and in the documentation I received, some of the highest accident rates are for tandem skydiving instructions. That is primarily what occurs with skydive out at the sports park. In conclusion, due to joint and several liability under the Negligence Act, the town is exposed to liability for this operation. If permitted to continue, our insurer highly recommends significant review of the agreement, implementation of additional risk management initiatives and controls, review and amendment of the waiver, review and amend on-site notification to the public and jumpers, increased reporting and monitoring of the business utilizing municipal property for landing, and finally, assistance with an experienced litigation lawyer, contract lawyer, and indemnity lawyer to make the agent more fulsome to try and mitigate risk to the town. That's a mouthful, but I wanted to ensure that all members of council had the benefit of hearing these initial thoughts. They did also indicate they would need to do a more thorough examination, but those are the immediate high-level concerns that they had with the operation. All other details contained in the original staff report remain unchanged, save and except for one detail pertaining to the rodeo and one additional piece of information that was shared with me after the council meeting that I would like to share with council. With respect to the rodeo, Mr. Ross Miller, owner of Ram Rodeo, confirmed that all of the details that I shared and that the mayor shared with council were correct, except that the individual was an employee of Skydive Wasaga and not Mr. Farkas personally. But it was a member of Skydive Wasaga that engaged in everything that was reported pertaining to the rodeo. Secondly, Mr. Miller shared that Skydive was jumping in the primary landing area on Friday, October 3rd, despite receiving notification that their landing area would be affected between September 30th from 10 a.m. to October 7th. This is concerning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'll now look to members of council. Questions or comments? Councillor White?
Thank you, Your Worship. As far as Mr. Miller's comments go, the mayor didn't say that Mr. Farkas had talked to him. I think you said a fella from Skydive. I think you're splitting hairs there, but anyways, I'll say this. I spoke with Mr. Farkas, with Leslie Farkas, after the council meeting. We were talking about something that was posted on Facebook that wasn't true, and I was just providing him with some information to let him know that what was said wasn't true. And he took the opportunity to invite me to fact check your comments. And I said, okay, and I went back and I pulled from our agenda package the current lease agreement, and I went into the archives online and I pulled the one from way back in 2016 and compared them. And you know the rest of the story from there. I contacted the mayor, let him know that that your comments didn't go with what was on paper, and he had asked me to tell you, so you and I had a brief conversation, and well, here we are today. So it takes a big man to apologize, so especially so publicly. So I want to say thank you very much for your apology. It means the world to us because we do trust staff implicitly with a lot of these reports. So owning it's a big part of it, and of course the apology to Mr. Farkas is appropriate again. So thanks, but yeah, the mayor said fella from Skydive.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, through the mayor. Given everything you just said, even if we were to strengthen everything, which is not my recommendation, but if all of that, clearly the cost associated to hiring a lawyer and the monitoring and everything else would be significant, that even the required rent on an annual basis to accommodate all that, I'm sure would be more than 3,350 or whatever it was. It's, so that's a concern too, as not the workload and the cost associated.
Thank you very much, Councillor Belanger. Next is Councillor Eagle.
Through your worship, yes, the only note I really wrote down is that's huge responsibility financially and economically being placed on a town to oversee all of that. It's humongous. So.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to understand all this. Are we here today to amend it if he wants to renew, or amend it from now until the lease expires December 31st?
So I think what we're here today for, Councillor, is just for staff to clarify an error that was made, and then to inform council that basically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Andrew, but this is the mistake Andrew made. He's owned up to it, as our staff do, or we will do always, and correct the record, but also to let staff know that it doesn't change what his recommendation was. Because, and then you've just heard him read that long diatribe of the insurer. So, what we'll decide here today is whether or not we want to change it or leave it as it is, but that'll be up to council today.
Are we talking about change it for the next 2 months until December 31st? Or are you talking about to renew? Because to renew, that's between you and Leslie privately, and if he wants to renew under those conditions, that's his prerogative. But are you telling us he's got to do everything that you just mentioned for the next 2 months in order to stay in business for 2 months?
I'm going to turn it to Andrew in a second, but the first report was brought not because the insurance wasn't adequate, although that was a concern. It was that there's other reasons and other things that we want to do at the park that this could limit or not limit, so on and so forth. And that's what the whole first meeting was about. And council made a decision based on that we would not be renewing. If you recall, in that meeting, council then strengthened that by saying, we'll stop it. We won't even wait till the end of the year. We're going to stop now because of the insurance concerns. So we're not here today to determine whether or not we want to extend the lease. If anything, I would say we're here today to say it doesn't change the recommendation, which is A, to not renew, and I believe it was Deputy Mayor Snell who put the amended motion on the floor to stop it as of last week on Thursday. So it would be up to now Deputy Mayor Snell if she wanted to change that or not.
Okay, because I believe when Deputy Mayor Snell brought it up, it was to amend it and see if Mr. Farkas will sign it. If he signs it, we continue. If he doesn't sign it, then the amendment was to cancel it immediately. That was my understanding.
I'm going to look, first I'm going to go back to Andrew to respond, and then I'm going to look to the clerk, and I'll give her some heads up to have a look at that to clarify. Andrew?
So there were 3 recommendations through you, Mr. Mayor. One, obviously, to receive the report. The second was Mr. Farkas had wanted to, challenge is not the right word. I had provided notice of non-renewal after December. He wrote that he wanted to renew, so I brought it to council. Council made a decision on that point. The third recommendation was to add these requirements between now and December. So in my opinion, first of all, I don't know if Skydive intends to try and jump between now and December 31st at all. I don't know. I will share that the current lease does prohibit skydiving in the winter. Winter is not defined in the lease. There's a bunch of holes in this lease that was signed in 2021. So I don't know what winter means. Is it the winter solstice? December 21st? Is it December 1st? Is it sometime in November? I don't know what winter means. I believe the fire chief had shared with us that the NOTAM expired October 18th. Is that correct?
Chief?
Thank you, Worship. I did look into it, and it originally had expired on October 18th, but it does look like it has been renewed.
Okay, so it has been renewed. So I honestly don't know if there are any intentions to try and continue skydiving. I think what we were saying is if Mr. Farkas, Skydive, would like to do that, we're more than happy to work with him to allow him to continue to operating. But given everything that the town's insurer has provided to me and now to you, I'm concerned about the time that it would take to work through all of this. I just don't know how long it would take. There may be some things that were identified that Mr. Farkas has already addressed. So maybe it's not as cumbersome as I may believe. So I think it requires a conversation with Mr. Farkas to understand how he would like to approach it. If he would like to try and continue operating until December 31st, more than happy to try and accommodate that.
Well,
Councillor?
yeah, no. Thank you for the explanation. I still believe he's got 2 months left. He has a lease, and for somebody to go in and change the lease for the last 2 months, I can't, to me, I don't agree with that. That's why I'm still going to say no on that. I just say let him be for the next 2 months, and then if he wants to renew, negotiate with everything that you said. Then it's up to him if he wants to renew. It's up to the town if they want to renew him. But to go through all this for the next 2 months, I mean, I've got signed leases. If my landlord came to me and said, you need to change it after 3 years, we've only got 2 months, it's like, no, I've got a lease. You got to wait until my lease is up. You should have brought this up before I signed the lease. So this is my main reason why I don't believe in that.
And if I could, Mr. Mayor.
Andrew, go ahead.
I understand your perspective completely. As I mentioned, my fiduciary duty is to notify council if there's an exceedingly high risk facing the corporation. I believe there is. I believe our town's insurer has identified that. It's up to council. Should you be willing to accept that risk between now and December 31st or not? That's not my decision. I'm simply advising you that our insurer has identified that there's a relatively high risk that the town is exposed to.
All right, thank you. All right, Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Worship, through you. I don't wish to alter my motion, the original motion, which I'd still look to the clerk for clarification for Councillor DeLeo's request. But my understanding was that unless the operator meets all of these additional insurance requirements, that he was to cease operations immediately. So I still stand by that, especially given the amount of detail that was provided by our insurer. And I feel that if we chose to let him just continue for the next 2 months, knowing this information, that would even put us at more risk, because now we're aware, where before we weren't. So, Madam Clerk, if you happen to have that amendment handy, then I think Council would like to hear it, please.
Madam Clerk, do you have that amendment?
Yes, and through you, Mayor Smith.
Sorry,
So
Madam
the
Clerk,
motion,
just before you do, I do see your hand. Councillor Timms, I'll get to you shortly. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
no problem. So the motion that was considered and passed on October 23rd is the following. That the report titled Skydive Wasaga Beach Lease Agreement, Klondike Sports Park to the council meeting of October 23rd, 2025 be received. That council refuse the renewal request from Skydive Wasaga Beach Inc. to lease the Wasaga Sports Park located at 1888 Klondike Park Road. And the amendment included the following. That the current lease be amended to add a covenanter and indemnification clause between today and December 31, 2025, with failure to do so resulting in termination of the lease immediately.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Just follow up. So given the clarifying information that Andrew has provided today, I don't know if that motion really speaks fulsomely enough in terms of what we're looking for, as some of the indemnifier pieces were in there, for example. So what motion I would like to put forward for consideration is that we provide direction to Andrew to have a conversation with the operator, share the document that was provided by our insurer, go through it line by line, and if the operator is able to meet those requirements, then he can continue to operate until the end of this year. And if he is not able to or wishes not to, then cease immediately, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so do you want to put that on the floor now, or do you want to finish discussion first, Deputy Mayor?
Let's finish discussion.
Okay, so it indicates finished discussion. Go to Councillor Timms. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize for my technical difficulties that took me out of the meeting for a few minutes, so I'm catching up a little bit. I think what's important to consider here is that going forward, a lease will look very different than the lease that has been in place for the last 10 years. And I was wondering if conversations with Skydive partners had even begun with some sort of negotiation. I think as a town, we have to take some responsibility for being unaware of the risk that lay with that lease agreement that was in place. We don't really know how much skydiving goes on from this date until end of year anyways. And I think that's an important piece to understand, because there's a lot of work that's going to be involved for Skydive, as well as the town, to try to meet those requirements. So I'm a little in the same mind as Councillor Dillio. I'm not sure whether we're trying to decide here today whether we're allowing Skydive to continue to year end, or whether we are changing our view on whether a new lease and a new agreement could be in place going forward in 2026. So I'm sorry to be unsure of this, but could I have some clarification? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think what is clear, and what was made clear in Andrew's last report, is that there are other uses and reasons that we were not willing or not wanting to renew this lease after its expiry. Different uses, more events, other things at the sports park, the concern for some of the things we have learned and heard, so on and so forth. And so today is not about renewing the lease. Today is to be updated, the public to be updated, and Andrew to correct the error, and he's apologized. I personally will apologize on behalf of council and the municipality as well to Mr. Farkas and to Skydive Wasaga Inc. for the error. We've noticed the error, we've corrected the error, and we will always do that. Given what we've learned today and the amount of concern that the insurer has, before we're done today, I think what council needs to decide is, and confirm, is there a willing to renew? I don't think that's the case. It wasn't the case before for different reasons. And number two, do we want to today even continue to go down the path to see if Skydive Inc. can satisfy what it is that we see is required to be added to the insurance coverage in order to ensure that the municipality is not at peril. I think that's going to take some considerable time. The report talks about having, a lawyer legal counsel look at this. I'm assuming they mean both on the side of the municipality and on the side of Skydive Inc. The insurer wants to see any and all changes to ensure that they're satisfied with it on behalf of the municipality. So we can start this process, but I believe that's going to take time. I mean, any time you bring lawyers into the situation, with all due respect, it takes time, and it takes more time. And then the costs, which we have no idea what those costs are. I don't know that Skydive Inc. is going to want, or Skydive Wasaga Inc., is going to want to endure those extra costs for 2 months, or does the municipality want to endure the costs of, the legal fees in order to ensure that we're on solid ground should we move forward. So I think today, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but you've said that basically you've corrected the error, but your recommendations stand. And I stand for those reasons, and the reasons that you gave in your initial report. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the recommendation then, I'm going to now look to the clerk, just to give us the first part of that again, because I think that was the original recommendation.
Yes, and through your worship, so the first motion was always to receive the report. The second motion, that council refuse the renewal request from Skydive Wasaga Beach Inc. to lease the Wasaga Sports Park located at 1888 Klondike Park Road.
So that, just 1 second, okay. So that was the recommendation that we voted on, and then we strengthened that recommendation to say, unless Mr. Farkas changes his coverage, he's to cease operation immediately. So that's where we're at. We now have the added information that was brought forth from the insurer today and from the conversation that was had and the confirmation of Mr. Ross Miller and the additional information here for council to now consider. At the end of the day, our responsibility is to protect the town of Wasaga Beach and the corporation and our ratepayers. Any further questions then, Councillor Timms?
Thank you, Your Worship. No further questions, really. I do want to say the reason why we're here didn't just start at the rodeo. I think for a while there's been thoughts about how that park is changing, how the town has changed, and how insurance has. Insurance changed over 10 years. That's a fact. So it puts all of us in a pretty tough situation, I think. Coming up with a good decision. I do notice, Your Worship, that the CFO has her hand up as well, so may have some comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I do see that, and I will now go to her. Jocelyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have to leave the meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity just to provide a few comments before I do go. As my role involves the risk management and the insurance, I do have some concerns that I wanted to mention. In the lease, in Section 7, it states clearly that if an event is occurring at the sports park, then the primary landing site is not available, and that the tenant agrees not to use the primary landing site. The tenant did use the primary landing site after notice had been served, and that is of a significant concern because there were a lot of people there, and to not follow the covenants of the lease, in my opinion, puts the town at a higher risk. And then in light of the other information that we have had from our insurance provider, I have a lot of concern about the risks. So in the best interest of the town, I just offer this as my opinion. I do not think this lease should continue. I think it should be terminated because of the default and the conditions that are existing. I recognize this is a challenge for everyone because of businesses involved, but I look at this as how we mitigate risk for the town and what's in the best interest of the town and how was the lease followed. And for those reasons, I would offer those comments. And with that, unless there are any questions for me, I probably should exit at this time, if that's acceptable, Your Worship.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Any questions for comments for Jocelyn? Councillor White?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, Jocelyn, I know you got to run. You just said terminated for cause. I'm struggling with part of this issue, so I just want to make sure I understand your thoughts clearly. You're saying that we should be terminating this immediately or just not renewing it?
Through Your Worship, I'm suggesting it be terminated immediately. The lease clause 7, section 7 was not followed by the tenant. They were required not to use the primary landing site if they had been notified that an event was taking place at the sports park. And my understanding from the information that was provided today, the primary landing site was used during the notice period that was advised not available.
Good there, Councillor White? All right, any other questions for Jocelyn? Councillor, not for Jocelyn? All right, Jocelyn, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Your Worship.
All right, I think what's also important to note is not only do we know and understand that the prime area was used when it was clear it wasn't to be, but it was also attempts made by Skydive Wasaga Inc. and/or a representative thereof asking the rodeo people or instructing the rodeo people and then asking perhaps that they were going to land cowboys within the ring, which is in the primary landing zone. Rodeo doesn't have the authority to give that, and the fact that we said no landing in the primary landing zone, we shouldn't have been even asking the rodeo people. No is no. And so clearly, according to Section 7, that's a breach of the contract and reason to cancel it, obviously. All right, next in line then was Councillor Belanger. Back to you.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, just a point of clarification. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this, but the NOCAM that expired on October 18th, do they have to have that in place in order to legally jump?
Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't believe I'm an expert to answer that question. I don't know with 100% certainty. All I can tell you is that my understanding is that they have issued a NOTAM in the past. The original one expired on October the 18th. It has been renewed, and it will last now, the current one, until December the 1st. But I can't tell you whether or not one is legally required to be in place in order to pair jump.
The reason I ask is that, we could go back and look at when that was canceled in previous years, because generally speaking, when we get to this period of the time, at the elevation you jump at, given the temperatures, they may have already ceased operation for the year. I don't know for sure, but if that's the case, at least we know that we haven't caused any undue scheduling of people that might have already booked a jump or that kind of thing. So, but I agree that given all the new information, it would be impossible for us to meet all the criteria prior to the season being over.
I would think that the fact that it's been renewed to December 1st is possibly an indicator that they do plan to do more jumps.
Sorry, Your Honor, I didn't know it had been renewed.
Yeah, so it expired on October the 18th, and it has been renewed now until December the 1st, I think was the date. Is that correct, Chief?
Correct, Your Worship, December the 1st.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Now back to Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so the Deputy Mayor had spoke of making the contract, like canceling the lease until the new insurance protocols are made. And I'm definitely against that, because I do agree with Councillor DeLeo that Skydive does have a lease here, and that's a legal obligation, and we're more likely to get sued for canceling the lease for no good reason than there is to be an accident and causing injury. However, the CFO has informed us now that there was a breach of contract here, and that changes everything, in my opinion. I was very much against this motion that's going to come up here by the Deputy Mayor, but I'm very much now in favor of it, only because of that material change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew, the insurance company you keep on talking about, that it's a group insurance, how long have we been in that group insurance?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The CFO would know better than I. It's fairly recent. I believe it was August sometime.
I believe you're right, but I see that the clerk has her hand up. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, through your worship. Our coverage began with the county insurance pool June 1st.
Okay, so if I may. So when we renewed it with this group policy, when it's a new insurance company, did they not want to know what all our liabilities are? Wasn't Skydive, Wasaga, Skydive, did you not notify them we have a skydiving service here? wouldn't they have said, well, what's the liability? Wouldn't they have looked at that contract, or let's see what liabilities on there? Because I'm having a hard time with this. When we renewed with that new insurance guy, why wasn't Skydive brought up then? And then you could have contacted Skydive and said, look, the insurance company is saying this is what we need, and this is, but you're bringing it up now. This is where I'm having the problem with it.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, if I could, through Mr. Mayor. You're right. I don't think the municipality was aware of the risk that we were facing. When the drone matter came to light, I received correspondence from Mr. Farkas. We started looking into it. It's at that time that I reached out, and with the clerk, we reached out to the town's insurer to seek guidance. And that's when all of this became aware to us. And that's what informed my recommendation last Thursday to council, because the town's insurer had notified me that we're facing a significant risk here. So you're right. I think the town was not aware of the risk we were exposed to for probably a decade.
But if I may, Councillor Timms had said that we were having issues with Skydive Wasaga before the rodeo.
Correct.
So why wasn't that all looked into then?
Well, I think let's correct that. I don't think Councillor Tim said we were having issues with Skydive before the rodeo. I think she indicated we were looking at not renewing because of different issues and uses of the park. That's what, I'll look to Councillor Timms to clarify that. Councillor Timms?
Yes, that's right, Your Worship. I think that there had been conversations with regards to where we're going with tourism and big increase in population, and the fact that Klondike Park is underutilized, and what was that going to look like over the next decade. So it wasn't issues with the dives and the business per se. It was more about what does the next 10 years look like.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah,
Good, Councillor
but I
Dodd?
still stand. There's 2 months left for me. Leave it alone. If you don't want to renew him, January 1st, don't renew him. But for the next 2 months, it's not worth the legal battle. It's not. And honestly, it's too cold. I don't think anybody's going to skydive. It's too cold. But that's my opinion.
Well, here's what I would say to that. The NOTAM that expired on the 18th, if there was no plan to dive anymore, I would struggle to understand why would you renew it? Why would you extend it to December 10th? If you don't need it, you don't need it. If you're not diving, you don't need it. It's my understanding. Number two, regardless of whether there's a lease in place or not, we now know two things. We know that there was a breach of the lease, breach of the contract by Skydive Inc., Wasaga Inc., landing where they were clearly instructed and acknowledged they weren't to land. And number two, take all of that away, whether they dive again or they don't, and whether they are in breach of the contract or they're not. The municipality, according to our insurer, is at a significant risk. We represent the taxpayer. I don't know about the rest of you, but I cannot possibly say it's okay to just take that risk knowing it for the next 2 or 3 months. If something is to happen, we knew that the municipality is at risk. You know, it's different that we didn't know. And should we have ought to have known? Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. That's another argument for another day. But the fact is, we didn't. But now that we do, our job, my job, is to ensure that we save harm the taxpayers. And so by just saying, you know what, we'll turn a blind eye for 2 more months, I think would be irresponsible. All right, now going to Councillor Ego.
Thank you, through your worship. Really, it was about pretty much what you're saying, except I was, the cost to the staff here for another few weeks, to me, just does not make sense. The money we're going to have to invest in the town, going through the insurance and lawyers for a few weeks. And let's face it, this is not a December business. It's not a retailer that's depending on this time of year for their business. So I can't see us really harming this business financially in any way, but it's certainly harming the taxpayer.
All right, any other questions or comments? Councillor DeLeo.
A lot of my decision here also is like, you're saying the liability. He's been in business 10 years. He hasn't had any liability. Like, his record should speak for itself. And 2 more months to me, 2 more months is let it go. He's been in business 10 years. If he's had incidents, I'd understand that. But he's had no incidents. 0. He's got a clean record. That's it.
Councillor, there are people who have clean driving records for 30, 40 years and leave their house in the morning and have a fatal accident. It's irrelevant. You know, accidents, they're accidents for a reason. They're not planned. They happen. Our fire chief sees this every single day in his career. We know that if an accident is to occur, our insurer has told us that we have significant issues in our coverage. That's what matters. Listen, I said it in the last meeting. Skydive Wasaga has an excellent record, and kudos to them. I mean, well-deserved. But everybody has an excellent record till they don't anymore. And if that happens in the next 2 months, or October, no, wait, 2 months and 2 days, we knew that there was a risk. On top of that, there's a clear breach of the contract. All right, you had a motion to put on the floor. Madam Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
I look to our clerk to paraphrase this better for me, but I would like to see the contract canceled. And or we could consider directing Andrew to have a conversation with the operator to see if they're prepared to meet these requirements. But that was before hearing from the CFO in regards to the incident of jumping and to Andrew's point, jumping when clearly told not to. So unfortunately, his record isn't spotless and clean. We've had a couple of violations there. So honestly, I'm not quite sure where I sit. Part of me is saying cancel it, but at the same time, maybe Mr. Farkas could be given a chance to meet the insurance requirements. I'm sitting on the fence.
Well, sitting on the fence does not give us a motion. I think it's important. This is really important, folks. We, as a council, representing the taxpayers, know that there's a breach of contract around safety, for lack of a better term. Do not land in this area in this time frame. And it was attempted to land there through asking and speaking to the Ram Rodeo folks. They did land there on 2 occasions we're aware of. 1 occasion that we're aware of on the Friday in that time period. And we know unequivocally from our insurer that as everything stands today, we have a lot of work to do before the taxpayer is no longer at risk. To go 1 more second is irresponsible on our part. That is my opinion. So I'm going to look for last and final comments, or if you have that motion you want to change, Deputy Mayor, or if someone else wants to do a motion. If not, I'm prepared to change, to pass the chair to make a motion here. I'm going to go to Councillor Belanger.
Yes, I don't know if we also have any liability to terminate the lease immediately, but certainly I would support a recommendation that operations of Skydive Wasaga Beach cease immediately until all terms of our insurer are met, and that, again, that we will not renew the lease for another year. I don't believe those terms can be met before the end of December anyhow, but that might alleviate some of our liability.
Excellent point. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? So Councillor Belanger, do you wish to put a motion on the floor to that effect?
I'm fine with that if the clerk wants to paraphrase that. It's just that Skydive Wasaga Beach would cease operations immediately until all requirements of our insurer are met, and that we will not renew the lease for another year. That it would, if those aren't met by December 31st, then we cease operation anyhow. So.
All right, you're putting that on the floor. Moved by Councillor Belanger. Sorry, comment?
Your
Councillor
Worship.
White?
Sorry. Your Worship?
Councillor, let's have the clerk read it, and then I'll come to your comment. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I just want to go through, we will require reconsideration based on what I'm hearing at the council table. So I'm understanding there's two options, I guess. Both will require the reconsideration. So the first option is that we keep the motion that council refuse the renewal request. And that's what I'm understanding.
Correct?
And then, okay. The other option would be then to reconsider the third motion, because the third motion deals with the covenanter and the indemnification clause. But what we've also learned from Andrew today in our insurance is that we require a review of the insurance certificate that the business has provided to the town against the requirements that he feels. So we should be adding that the indemnification clause be reviewed and rewritten within the agreement, and that the insurance requirements. So we need that third additional piece. Or we can get staff direction upon a reconsideration to terminate the lease immediately based on the default. The lease agreement states that the lease can be terminated if the rules and regulations are not followed within the lease. So by having noticed that the primary landing zone was not available during the rodeo, and that jump to continue in that area, that's a default. So those are the options before council, but I will require a reconsideration, and that has to be put forward by a member that voted on the prevailing side.
Okay, comments? Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Worship, and you're making my point for me, Madam Clerk. I am not in favor of terminating the lease agreement based on insurance requirements. We have a deal, we have a deal. I am in favor of terminating the lease based on the default, which is the jumping inside the primary landing area when he was instructed to use the secondary landing area. That's the legal bit we have to stand on. If we start going and changing the reasoning why we're terminating the lease, I think we open up the municipality to a lawsuit.
All right, Madam Clerk, so based on Councillor White's thoughts, if we terminate the lease immediately based on the default, we still need a reconsideration?
Based on the new information, I feel that we would be fine with just having a motion to terminate immediately.
All right, and do you wish to move that motion, Councillor White?
Your Worship, I heard it from the CFO herself. I think that that's the best advice I could take. Yes, I would like to motion to terminate the lease based on the default of Section 7 as per the CFO's comments.
All right, do we have a seconder for that? All right, moved by Councillor White, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. Madam Clerk.
So I prepared, Councillor White, if you're not satisfied, please let me know as the mover. That staff be directed to provide notice of termination of the lease between Skydive Wasaga Beach, Inc. and the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach due to default of the terms, and that notice be provided in accordance with the agreement effective immediately.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you.
And you're still good with that, Deputy Mayor Snell? All righty, it's moved by Councillor White, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell, and you've heard the question. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It is 6-1, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on then to item number 5 on the list, which is bylaws, 2025-53 confirmatory bylaw, and that the bylaw 2025-53 be received and be deemed to have read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And this meeting is adjourned at 4:02.